Hi there, welcome back to my channel, The Wellbeing Guinea Pig, and I'm your host, Jenny. Today's topic I want to talk to you about is pretty similar to the last video that I did on the lines of relationships, who we choose to be in our life partners, but also our friendship groups and anyone that we choose to have in our inner circle. And I'm laid bare today. I haven't got any makeup on, just me, and this is how I always want to do these videos, extremely laid bare, and really talk to you about, because the way I like to sort of tell my stories, taking it back to bring you to the present, and then hopefully come to some conclusions in the future. So yeah, I think we'll start from the top, and we'll leave off from the last video really of sort of coming to the conclusions of the educational system and how I progressed to sort of not really have that much of a high regard, and the communication not being very good regards to my career, and then the implications that it had on my life as a whole. And I think this is a valid point, that once you have a negative association, negative self-talk about one thing, such as your career, or how you fundamentally view yourself, then I think you can see how that really branches off into all areas of your life. Hence, this is where it comes to talking about picking a life partner, or not even thinking about it that deep, picking a boyfriend. So my first experience of boyfriends were very innocent and sweet, and when I think back, just really cute and endearing, up until it got to the point where the raging hormones came in, and I think that changes things, and that's another valid point that I do want to talk about. Obviously, there's the aspect of choosing a partner, but it's also choosing someone that you actually feel that initial attraction to, which sometimes I feel does get in the way of us being able to make a good judgment on a partner going forward. But so for me, I think when these hormones came into play, and it was a very sort of it's a very different stage. I remember feeling really, being 13 and just feeling like, wow, I'm thrust into all these feelings, and everything meant something, like Boys to Men, End of the Road. I remember when that was playing. I don't know whether anybody else in my era feels the same, but I remember feeling this instant like all these hormones to this song, and what it meant, and who it was for, and it was so many feelings, But really, my first experience of being going with a boyfriend, I'll mention no names, of course, but it was my first serious boyfriend, and I met him when I was 14. And initially, the attraction was that of feeling like this boy was totally different from anything I'd ever come across in my growing with the kids growing up. He was extremely different, and he was talking about God, and it was almost like it was a really intriguing new world that he was sort of introducing me to, and he would read captions of the Bible, and then it quickly became apparent that this individual really wasn't God-fearing or spiritual, really, but quite a manipulating character. He was pretty young. He was about 5 years older than me, though. So I was 14. He was 19. So make of that what you will. But I felt like I could make a decision for myself at that point, that I wanted to explore this avenue, should I say? And But it quickly came, it quickly came to the forefront that this chap, I won't call him a man because I don't think he was quite a man then, was quite manipulative. And obviously because of me being a lot younger, he knew that could be the case. And again, so I think sometimes at this point, I think we can't always see these people coming initially, but if you have the jargon with yourself, if you respect yourself enough to see it when it becomes apparent to you, then I think it's much easier for you to manoeuvre yourself away from those situations. However, because of my inner dialogue with myself of feeling thick and feeling not really worthy, I felt like the boys, and I want to come to this in detail, but the boys that I maybe thought were very attractive, it was quite a scary prospect to actually even have a dialogue with these type of fellas, because I felt like they made me feel, was the perceived way of feeling even less than, almost like an uncloaking of the way I really felt about myself. So this first relationship I had, it went on for about 4.5 years, and it was very detrimental in the sense that he was physical with me and would put me down and was very manipulative as a person. And instead of moving away from that, it was a pushing and pulling scenario where it was, I'm sorry, I love you, and even sexually it became apparent that he was cheating on me. There was lots of scenarios that I found out, and it was just not a healthy relationship at all. I then ended that relationship, and there was somewhat of stalking involved with that to a certain degree, because someone who wants to control you feels like they've got that right to control you, and you haven't got the right to be on your own without them. Very manipulative. So there was some of that, but eventually I did break away, and I started going out with this other chap who I'd known growing up, and he was always very much a cheeky chappy, and had a lovely spark about him. I always felt that he was really funny, and that was one thing that always intrigued me, was the humour. If someone could make me laugh, it was just I was kind of put in the hands to a certain degree, and I still love to laugh, and so that's a great scenario. But this is what the kids were like with me growing up. I was always in the innocent side of it. I was always I had an affinity to a confident, funny guy, like the class clown. I think that's a really sweet thing. But this guy, I suppose to a certain degree, was like the class clown. Unfortunately, at that point, he'd got himself involved in people that were using him, and I think he was very much a people pleaser. So again, but I think I went into that relationship with the viewpoint of that I wanted to fix someone else, because I didn't feel worthy myself. I didn't feel that I was confident, as I've explained in the last video, how I felt. I would say not very nice things about myself, like you're thick, and who would want you, and it's better to have someone that's just gonna kind of be there when they want to, rather than having no one. I think that whole period of going through the situation with my first boyfriend, I moved away from my friends. You kind of realise that these type of people end up you don't know, you can't see it coming, but then you realise you've got hardly anyone around you anymore. I think then instead of after that relationship ending, I didn't discover who I was and took time out for myself. I went right into this other relationship, which this is again, it's a pattern that people choose, you know, they can't deal with their own emotions, so they need to always be validated by someone else. And I think that was you know, me at that time. And then so it was a different scenario with the second chap, because fundamentally, you know, I saw this in him, that he needed fixing. In my eyes, it was like, yes, he's another guy, it's a different situation, but he needs fixing. You know, he had these addictions, which I won't go into detail about, but you know, it was a slippery slope, and it escalated to a point where he kept going in and out of prison, and I would always try and find him a job and to seek a job, but it was almost like I was, instead of fixing myself, I was putting the efforts in to fix him. You know, it made me feel worthwhile somehow, because it was too much of a task. I wouldn't even know how to start loving and fixing myself. So I dedicated the time to loving and fixing someone else who was unfixable, really, when I think about it now. The only person who can fix you is you. And so, you know, that was extremely frustrating to me, because of course there was never any conclusion, there was never any fixing, because it wasn't coming from the individual. And so again, wasting time, you know, putting a lot of time, a lot of emotion, a lot of effort into him, sidelining anything about myself. The conversations were off, you know, the way I would look at myself, the way I would view. And I think I often thought to myself that, you know, there were, because I was very active socially at that point, you know, I still was going out with my pals and enjoying myself, and I was still around people all the time. The second relationship wasn't like claustrophobic like the first, but when I would be around anyone that would, and the chap who I was with was absent for, you know, majority of our relationship. It was kind of me there, and he was sort of anywhere. And I remember meeting chaps that I thought, you know, this animal instinct almost, wow, you know, really liking the vibe from someone. And yet I couldn't actually get close to anyone that I thought was fixed, or what I thought of as whole. Even though that animal feeling, that sort of chemical, the initial chemical feeling would have been there, the view that I had about myself stopped me from ever pursuing that, because it would be too challenging. It would be too much of, you know, I would be constantly questioning myself and why I did things, and always feeling like I would be, you know, the lower down on the scale than my partner. So I could never think of being. And I remember like going into and meeting chaps that then it was the other side of things, where I could see were really good guys, you know, really nice, wholesome guys. But then that chemical thing wasn't there, and they saw me. I know that there was men of my past. They saw me as, wow, look how quirky this girl is, and she's crazy, and she's always doing something, and she's always, you know, she's. I suppose to a certain degree, I would never describe myself as a boring personality, because it would be kind of what I look at now is probably acting up, even though I was never one of these girls that would sleep around, because I always had this ethos as well, which again now I sort of look at as really judgmental, but I always said to myself that it's always a guy that uses me it's a guy that uses women. So, you know, if you've got these sexual urges, you know, don't go there because you're lowering yourself almost. So it wasn't that I slept around, which when you're younger, I really now I look back, I think, well, you know, if women feel like that's what they want to do, and it's empowering to them to be sexually comfortable and getting what they want without treading on anybody else's toes and making them put them down. I now think, well, fair play, you know, go and get what you want to get, you know. But at the time, I remember thinking, you know, I would never be one of these girls that sleeps around, and I just think, why would you want to lower yourself? You know, this type of mentality. But yet I was extremely wild in other ways, like acting out, and just due to me not feeling emotionally comfortable in my own skin. But of course, I think then some really nice guys get trampled on in the process there, because I remember going into the friend zone a lot of times with guys, and they would want to sort of have something more with me, and I would never go there just because that instinct, that chemical reaction, it wasn't there, you know. So I think the choices that I made were extremely detrimental. Yeah, so now I look at things quite holistic, then I really see the way that it was a loop of sort of mistreating myself, and then in turn not being able to be anything for anyone else really, and not really helping anyone else, because how can you possibly help someone else when you feel and your communication with yourself is totally off? So after sort of going through those two experiences, I then met, and it was more or less, again, right after finishing the second relationship, I then went into a relationship with my husband, and I've got to admit that I feel that now that I can assess it and see it for what it is, even though my husband and my boyfriend at the time was established in his own right, you know, he was working, he had his own business, he was a success with his business. I feel like we were two, and I haven't said this to him, I don't know how he's going to feel about me saying this, but you know, you know me, I've got to be honest, that I think we were two wounded animals, and I think we came together, and what he saw in me was something that maybe I think he was looking for in his own life, and again the same with me. No one had really fought my corner, which I've explained to you why, going through my life. And so I was almost looking for that reassurance from someone else, that somebody else would take that on and sort of nurse me and lick my wounds to a certain degree. And I think me and my husband now, looking back, we fulfilled that need with each other. My husband too had a lot of anger issues, and we were two little wounded animals really that kind of leaned on each other and saw that part of each other as something that was what we needed at that time. And it's like, you know, you look back and you see these things now, and you see how they evolve, and 18 years down the line, obviously we're still together, and we've done a hell of a lot of growing together. That what funnily enough, I think the thing that we had in common at that point is very different now. We've both evolved to sort of be very individual. So, you know, my husband has his own feelings and ways about sort of socialising, or you know, aspects of our life that he likes to keep quite private. And you know, he's a lot older than me. You know, I don't know whether I should be saying this either, but he's 54, so there's nearly 14 years difference between us. And I think for me now, because we leaned on each other and we did it really well and it worked, and we had that spark also, we've give each other the room to grow and change. And I think it's human nature to want to almost make your partner emulate your own views and mirror each other, and be that is what is keeps you together. But I think a long term, and this is where the advice scenario comes into it, because long term you need to be individual. You need to be individual and respect and like each other's differences. You know, we even had this conversation this morning, and how we talked about, and this is the other thing about, you know, 18 years down the line now, there's a lot of people that can be and have been and are together a lot longer than that, you know, 40, 50, 60 years. And there must be a special secret there that I haven't got to yet. But I know we've been with my husband for 18 years. I realise that it is a choice every day to get up to choose each other. And the conclusion that we came to this morning, and go back to what we talked about, was the fact that with the current climate the way it is at the moment, we aren't meeting each other's needs 100%, and that honesty and that acknowledgement is brilliant. And it's not that those needs are met now at this point. As I say, we've come to a conclusion this morning saying we understand that there's certain things that we need to work on, and this is realistic. And anyone who tries to say that they've got some perfect relationship 20 years down the line, you know, I think that would definitely be within the minority. But I really can't see how it can be true, because you evolve, you change, you grow. Sometimes you don't evolve and change, and then sometimes that breaks down the relationship anyway, because we all need to grow and change and become the person that we were meant to be, hopefully. So I think it's nice in the sense that there's that to just bring into the scenarios of this COVID thing and lockdown at the moment that we're in January. There is so many pressures on us, and to be super, I'll use me as an example because I'm talking about me, super mom. You know, you've got to get the job done. Everything's on a time scale. Everything should be, you know, this schooling thing. We've got to clean the house constantly. It's feeding time. It's you know, when you sit down, it's my husband's been at work all day, so it's time for him to relax and chill out. And then you're constantly trying to find time for yourself, and things like this, like doing these videos, for me is honestly self-therapeutic. It's just, so this is my time, this is me. But, you know, so I think me and Steve come to this conclusion that we've said our needs aren't met at this precise moment. There's certain aspects of our relationship that we do need to work on, but we know that it's not the right time at the moment, and that is the beauty of a relationship lasting. It's getting up and saying, things might not be great this week, this month, things, you know, I'm not feeling this, and this happened, and really we should be doing, you know, we should do what society expects. But the main thing is to say, let's discuss, let's understand where we're both at. Because I think, you know, if I can just sort of say the difference with a male and a female. Like for me, I feel like, and this is the friend side of things, that I feel like I'm ticking all the boxes for my pals at the minute, you know. I mean, there may be some that say otherwise, but I feel like I get my girlfriends, you know, we're all digging in, you know, everyone's digging in, everyone's supporting each other, and I find it so easy to understand my lovely females and females as a whole, a lot easier than I do to maintain a relationship with a boy, you know. And so it's hard work, and it needs time, it needs patience, and this is where me and my husband are at. And so what I'm trying to say is, no relationships are ever going to be perfect. We've always got to make a decision to work at these things, and I think that's where we all need to be at. But why I'm highlighting all this is because we need to, again, it comes back to the conversations that we have with each other, what we say when we look in the mirror, how we can forgive ourselves for mistakes that are made, that we do daily, you know, how we can take the pressure off ourselves, because pressure never helps anyone really if you're piling that pressure on, and it blindsides you from actually what's in. Like I was sitting on the settee with my husband, and we said, right, Thursday night, my husband said, Thursday nights we won't have the computer, it's just going to be us just talking, and then when it came to it, we were both on our phones, and then it was, we said this, so we should have done this, and then it's so much pressure that you forget, and it's so easy to look at it just from your own point of view. You're not meeting my needs, you're not doing what you said you were going to do, and then sort of feeling in that moment, right, this is it, you're not doing this, or you're doing this. But I actually said to myself, which is all new, remember, because I'm newly opening my eyes to a lot of these things really, to be non-reactive. I said to myself that, you know, what my husband wants at the moment, I can't actually give him, because my time is taken up by giving my time to the kids, thinking about my business and how that's going forward, and really having that jargon to love myself, and that's all I've got time for at the moment. So instead of sitting there and sort of saying, you said this and you did, I sort of thought, what does my husband want? And I feel like my husband needs to have that conversation with himself. And I said that to him today. I says, babe, I understand that me and you are not meeting each other's needs 100% at the moment, but you need to have that conversation with yourself to see how you can meet your own needs, and then we can come together on a plan to help each other, you know. And I think that's really, really important. Now the next point I want to, without going into sort of giving a rant about technology and stuff like that, and sort of living in the past, and you know, sort of, I understand we're in the digital era now, and we're in these quick fixes, so we flip our phone, no like, you know, this is the way we do it. Everything's such a throwaway society when it comes to people's emotions and meeting people. But running the risk of sounding like I'm giving a lecture or I'm living in the past, it really is, it's such a detrimental future with connection as far as I'm concerned. And I say this because it's not because I want to say this and it's going to make any difference to me financially, career-wise in the future, because I totally appreciate how people are going to be reaching out for someone like me more and more and more. The more our connection is stripped away from us, the more depression, the more that us feeling alone in the world, when we can just talk to somebody at the touch of a button. You know, it's so easy, but yet we do feel so alone. And I understand that people are going to be needing to reach out to me. You know, I'm going to be inundated in the future, I believe, because there's no robot can do what I'm talking about. There's no robot that can provide connection like we can, like we're meant to be, and how we're meant to come together and feel each other's energy and be in the same room, you know. And hence, again, with this scenario with COVID, all stripped away, you know, what's that going to leave at the end of it? What norms is that going to leave for us, which is quite scary as far as I'm concerned. But my point is that technology, it really stops us from feeling emotions that we need to feel to find a life partner, you know, that we talk all the time about how a text feels when you've sent it over with a certain way and yet it's received in another. We know all that, but it's actually, we are energetic beings, you know, believe it or not. We show our energy by being in the same room, the eye contact, the body movements, everything is about communication. And that is totally being stripped when we're not together, we're not physically in the same room. And I think this is what is so scary for me about connection. And I've even come to these realisations myself, is that reluctantly I realise that I feel like my business going forward is going to be digital. It's going to be that I'm behind a computer screen talking to someone how to help them with their with moving forward with their career or their personal life or their nutritional goals, or keeping fit. It is going to be at the back of the screen, which I'm reluctantly getting into because of being such an energetic being. You know, that energy is extremely important to me. So the take-home message for anyone who cares to listen is that we really need to concentrate on bringing these relationships back, and not just thinking to yourself, you wake up and you've been with your partner 5-10 years and things happen. You know, as a mom, if you've had a child, it changes your hormones, it changes the way that you view the world. There's a lot of evolving going on there, and I think it's so easy to wake up and just go, this is totally changed. There's no more sexual connection maybe going on here, so let's throw it away. Let's just start anew, because that keeps the spark going. But we know even with that relationship, that only lasts so long, and then what are you left with? So fundamentally, it all comes back to what we're saying in the mirror, and what we believe is the best thing to do going forward. And the best thing to do is always, oh, did you hear my stomach there? I must be hungry. The best thing to do always going forward is to fight for those connections, to fight to keep those friendships. And I'm not saying, if you and your friends, your girlfriends either, because I've had to, this is and I'm going on, but this is how I do, and this is what I love to do. But there's been lots of scenarios in the past where I really didn't ever, I've had this thing about not wanting to ever let anyone go out my life. I think somehow, somewhere along the line, which not quite apparent, but the feeling of, if I let that friendship go, that it's no longer serving me. But if I let it go, I'm going to be hurt somehow. I've lost those ties from something that's sentimental in the past. And I think if both parties want to work at that, and this is the thing, we can only do it if we work together. A relationship can't be kept, or you can't build these things if you're both on a different path, And I think this is something that I've had to learn, that I've had to come to conclusions, and it's been quite detrimental for me at the time, where I haven't wanted to let things go. I wanted to fight for things, and this is probably what I've done through most of my life, and then the conclusions are that we need to work together to keep these relationships going. And if one person's fighting for the relationship and the other one isn't, then you have to come to the conclusion of that needs just to flow, that needs just to go, give it space, you know, and then if it's meant to come back to you, it will. So the point is, again, is that we need to work together, and the only way that we can do that is really communicating with each other in the best way. So I'm going to leave you with that. I want you to understand that for me, I promise you that I'm going to do, because I want you to come on this journey with me if you can. I promise I'm going to work at having a lovely relationship with you, and always giving you this honesty, because I've got your best interests at heart. I really have. This is my mission, to want to, if I can, put over love, and to make people understand that you can change circumstances and situations with love, with understanding, with connection. So we have to work together, and I'm going to keep working with you to give you really good material, hopefully, that you take on board. So yeah, I'm going to leave you there because my stomach was rumbling and I obviously need to get some fuel in there. But thank you for listening again. I've really enjoyed talking about this subject, and I will see you in the next one. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.